that it is not as simplistic as it may appear, because I don't believe that they're matured enough.
No, you cut me off.
All right, go ahead.
Finish the question.
Mm-hmm.
I understand that discrepancies in terms of that all groups are not monolithic.
Mm-hmm.
The question I had for you was, since you were talking about that economic market system,
Mm-hmm.
we are practicing in this country, at least to some extent, is not always for full employment. Even one economist, they say full employment is at least 4 or 5%
Yes, yeah.
unemployment. And since you have got this problem of sexism and racism, what kind of solutions do you suggest? You just gave us history, you didn't give us any recommendations as to what should be done.
If the top-level economists in this country have been studying this problem for years, and while I'm not an economist, I'm not a theorist in that respect, because I happen to believe that I can't give any answer to that kind of question until the time should come in this country, then we are able to have leadership that will steer the country in an entirely different direction and not make moves on the basis of political patronage and political returns and what have you. I cannot go into the depths of it because I'm not a scholar along those lines, and I don't want to give simplistic answers to very deep problems in this country, because I'm not an economist. So I'm sorry I can't give you a deep answer, because I'm not equipped to do so. Yeah.
My question is, since it's 1980 and we listen to about dreams of the past and the dreams of the black and the minorities in the United States, and we often talk about the great American dream, and the American dream for white America is different than the American dream for black America. And since we are here at Iowa State, which is, quote, one of the top universities in the nation, what can you tell the black student here about the American dream and their purpose in being here, other than, quote, making it? Because this is the problem I see here. All the blacks are here to make it, and with that system you were talking about, which is top heavy, and no one at the bottom, I think that this would enlighten this whole body here about their purpose at being in our state. I would appreciate your comment.
Thank you. They may not like it, but I'm going to do it, okay? I'm going to say this to the black men, the young black men, and the young black women here at the university. Of course, you know very well that there's absolutely no room left today in America for unskilled men and women, that we are functioning in a very highly automated technological society, and that your mothers and your grandmothers and your grandfathers and your fathers did not have even the opportunities that you are having today as contrasted to them. And what you've got to realize is that because you're black or because you're male or because you're female, that nobody's going to give anything to you because you're black or because you're female or male. Excellence reaps rewards. You've got to discipline yourselves. You've got to give the best that is within you to give at all times. If there are brothers and sisters around you that enjoy socializing disproportionate to the time that they should be utilizing for their studies, get them out of your way, because you came here to prepare yourself to be a productive citizen, and not only a productive citizen, to be one of the role models for the little black boys and little black girls that are coming along behind you, because we don't have enough role models in America. Secondly, remember, when you're not doing anything, nobody talks about you. I remember, take it from me, when I was growing up and I went to high school and college, so many of my peers used to laugh at me. And they used to laugh at me because Shirley St. Hill, that was my maiden name. Shirley St. Hill was a bookworm. I spent a lot of time at the library. I've been doing crossword puzzles ever since I was 7 years of age. And that's what you got to do. You got to do crossword puzzles. Crossword puzzles enable you to acquire a vocabulary. And one of the marks of a versatile and a cultured person with class, if you will, is to be able to speak well. can't go around, even if you have a BA degree or an MA degree. This applies to you white students too. But you can't go around even if you have a BA and an MA degree and you go for an interview. Well, you know what knocks some people out of getting a job? Let me tell you. What knocks them? It's not the degree. It's not the degree, because you have the degree. It's the inability to answer questions. People come in, I've interviewed some people for positions and write fairly well or what have you, to ask them a question, ask them to explain something. You know. And what is that? The lack of a command of the appropriate word at a given moment, right? First impressions, young people, are lasting impressions. So you've got to learn, read books, do crossword puzzles, and you will find that one reason why people sometimes walk the way they do or carry themselves the way they do is because they may not even recognize its built-in inferiority. You know, you see people coming into a room, and sometimes you watch them. You ask them a question, and they're uncomfortable. If you have a vocabulary at your command, or what have you, you come in, you're proud. You can hold your own. You have poise. You have dignity. All right? Those are very important. I'm old enough to be a grandmother, the grandmother of some of you. I'm 56. So I'm telling you, I've been out here, and I know. And the last thing I want to say to all of you, do not let anyone deter you from your objective or your purposes that you have set out for yourself. You know, our old grandmothers used to always say, you know, the devil always working upon you. You know that? Devil always working upon you. You know what I'm talking about, sisters. All right? Don't let anybody deter you from your course. You just make your mind up that you're going to leave this college with a degree, and not only leaving it with a degree, but having all of the accoutrements along with it: poise, dignity, class. And that will carry you a long, long way. And if there are people that don't want to study, that came here to play, you have people in the black group, in the white group, that go to universities to play. I met a lovely young white woman the other day. She's a good friend of mine, and I've been counseling her in certain ways. And she finally told me, I saw she wasn't getting any place fast and what have you. She finally told me, and I knew I wanted her to say it. And she finally told me, you know, to tell you the truth, Mrs. Chisholm, I came to the college, but I'm not really that interested in getting the degree. If I get it, okay. I came to college because it was important for me to find a good husband. Now, if you came here to find a husband, that's your business. But I don't think that most of you came here to find a husband. You came here to prepare yourself to compete. Because when you leave here, you're going to have to be able to compete out there. And that is very, very important. So those are just a few things I want to give to you. 2 more questions, I guess. And all blacks are asking me questions. What's the matter with the whites? Okay.
Do you believe the so-called conservative wave sweeping America now will have adverse effects on the goals and past achievements of minorities?
Yes, I do believe that it will have a devastating impact. And let me tell you why. Because conservatism always begins to become much more viral, if you will, when the economy is also suffering. All right? Because then you begin to get that fear that those people have been taking some things away from us. If not, maybe we wouldn't be in this situation, i.e., already it's having an impact. The black middle class is in trouble today in America. It's funny I didn't say that the poor blacks are in trouble. The poor blacks continue to be in trouble. And all they're going to do is just tie their belts a little bit tighter and try to make it. But the black middle class is in trouble. Why? Because the gains that were made during the late 50s and the 60s as a result of the sit-ins, the raidings, and the marchings, the gains that have been made as a result of a civil rights struggle that gave to blacks who graduated from colleges and technological and business institutes the opportunity to move into the economic milieu of America, where they began to move in on middle management levels in banks and institutions, where they begin to move into universities and what have you. What is now beginning to happen is that a lot of these blacks are being eradicated because of the economy, and attrition is setting in a lot of these places. They're not rehiring. They become a part of the last hired, first fired syndrome when you have to let certain people go. And so what you are seeing, and what is beginning to happen, is that the black middle class is just beginning to feel uneasy and feel the wave of something. And the wave of that something has to do with it's a double-edged sword. The conservatism that the country is going into, aided along with the economic situation that causes corporations and institutions and businesses to cut back and discharge and what have you. You find in New York City, my own city, for example, where you have, and in D.C., Washington, D.C., where a large number of blacks are in the middle or in the civil service category. 'Cause that's the one category that blacks have been able to get into if they pass the exams and what have you. In city after city, where large numbers of blacks are located, mayors can't balance their budgets and have to cut. Thousands of blacks are being let go. This past week in Washington, 2,000 let go. I mean, it's beginning to hit the setting. And to the extent that the conservatism swing continues to grow and get broader and broader, blacks are going to be in a worse position than they were in since the days of the Reconstruction. And if and when Ronald Reagan becomes president, well, then you're going to be in really very serious difficulty because of his basic premise and his basic philosophy. And it is, conservatism, basic conservatism. All right? Yes, sir.
You've mentioned, well, we hear about a lot about what the president has done wrong. In a lot of ways, that's about all we're getting these days. I have two parts to my question. What has President Carter done wrong about the things that you've been addressing tonight specifically? And what could any president do?
Let me make it perfectly clear that President Carter has done some very good things. I will be the last one to stand here and tell you that President Jimmy Carter has not done some good things. He's done some excellent things in America. I'm not knocking President Carter for not doing things. No, he has done some very good things. But I think what I am talking about and what a lot of American people are talking about is leadership. Leadership. This country, more than at any other time since the past 50 years, is disrespected by just about every other country abroad, not only communist nations. This bothers me. Why? The domestic crises and the domestic problems we have at home, we recognize that the president can't solve all of these problems. But the president seems to have lost the grasp or the grip in order to help move some of these problems along. I personally happen to believe that the president, one of the difficulties is that the president has surrounded himself with a group of people who were too parochial in outlook, not broadened enough and had the depth and breadth of experience and understanding of politics and diplomacy and what have you to really be able to give him the kind of advice. Because remember, a president is only as good and viable as his advisors around him. It's not the president alone. He could never do it alone. And the president, I'm afraid, has not had very, very bright advisors and very good people around him. He's tended to deal with a monolithic grouping solely from the South. This is a country that's broad, and you have to have people across the level. But he seemed to be much more comfortable with the Georgian boys. And I could understand that. I could understand it. He'd never been in Washington. He didn't know. A lot of people that come from the South have a certain feeling about people from the North or the northeastern part of the country, or the kind of Harvard, Princetonian types that were the Kennedys characterized or what have you. It's that kind of thing. And I am very sorry to see, because the leadership has been so inept. It hurts, because I know the president very well. As a part of the leadership team of the House, I have breakfast with him every other Tuesday. I know him pretty well. He knew that I was going for Kennedy. At least I was honest, and I told him why I had to do it. A lot of them said they went for him, and then they didn't work for him. I don't believe in that. I believe in being honest. And he is a nice person. He's really a very nice person. But now, here we are. You got to make a choice. You know, but that is it. It's not, I still don't believe it's the president himself complete. I believe it's his advisors. I will always believe that. Okay? All right. All right, young lady there.
What are your views on the higher education bill that just recently failed Senate? And tell me, how do you feel that it will affect the black institutions as opposed to white institutions? Granted, it affects all institutions.
Well, black institutions are suffering terribly all over this country. Because one of the things that characterizes white institutions for the most part, as contrasted to black institutions, is that black institutions do not have endowment funds upon which they can call when they're in difficulty. I just read the other day that the endowment fund at, was it Yale or Harvard? I don't remember. One of those big universities, the endowment fund at Yale, I think it was, increased by $11 million more this year. $11 million more this year. Black institutions do not have endowment funds where they get interest and loans on them and that fund that keeps things going, to have some money there to call upon. That is why black institutions are in very, very serious difficulty. And one of the things that I'm very happy about is that I was the person on the House side with tremendous, tremendous work I had to do to get placed into the higher education bill something called the Challenge Grant. And the Challenge Grant would be that if the black institutions of this country can begin to raise some money to put aside in some kind of endowment fund or what have you, that the federal government will at least begin to match them. And that will be an incentive for them to build up an endowment fund. Whether or not that is going to stay in on the Senate side, I don't know. But as a result of doing that, that stimulated, I'm not going to name them because I promised I wouldn't do it, that stimulated 4 black colleges already to move to start trying to raise money so that they can get the matching fund. You cannot in any way compare black colleges with white colleges in this country, because white colleges, for the most part, fall into 3 categories. White colleges in this country, for the most part, the private institutions that have board of trustees, in many instances that have access to money or no people that would leave money to them and what have you, wealthy members on the board of trustees and what have you. Then, of course, you usually have in many of your states a city or state university system where your money comes to the state, city. And then last but not least, of course, you have a lot of the Ivy League colleges in this country that are left in wills and what have you. Black colleges don't. Black colleges are at the crossroads in America. It's a very, very, very serious problem.
I'd also like to say that one reason that the bill probably failed is because about 12 senators do not vote. I would hate to think that they were just sitting on their,
Mm-hmm.
if you will, and not go out to vote, because that could be a pure mission of saying no, but yet still a lot of them do not vote. Tell me, why is that?
Well, I think it's in the realm of politics, my dear. If you don't want to be associated with something, one of the things that you do is, they call it in politics, you take a walk. You take a walk. That happens all the time, not only senators, members of the House. If they don't want to go on record or they want to do a favor to somebody, you know, this is how this business operates. Oh, this business, honey, you know. Yes.
In the event that this is the last question itself, I won't make it a question, I'll make it an observation and a compliment. You brought so much to us to this evening, and I'd just like to personally give a compliment to you and thank you for coming and offering us so much and giving us so much information. And that my observation is that I truly have enjoyed what you've had to say, and I agree so much with it. I hear as director of the Black Cultural Center here, I hear so much of what you're saying, sort of like vibes from the students. And many times you don't always know how to talk back to them and always give them what they want to hear.
Yes.
But I just want to say thank you, and in the event if this is
I
your
will make
last-
it the last. I like that. I'd like to say thank you for the compliment, and I feel very honored about something that's going to happen to me very soon. I'm deeply honored. I'm going to Japan for 2 weeks. They took a poll in Japan amongst the students at 6 of the universities, and the poll was asking for students, male and female, which politician would they like to come to tell them about what goes on in America and what have you. And I was number 1. I want to very quickly say, I wasn't chosen by all these wonderful young people, because I have a wonderful relationship with young people all over this country and all over the world where I've traveled. I just love young people. I believe one of the reasons that why I was selected, they said, in essence, that if nothing else, she might be a politician, but she's much more of a statesperson, and her integrity and her principles makes us believe what she would be telling us and give us food for thought. I was very touched. Good night.
Before you leave, I'd like to remind you and thank you for coming to the first event of Black Perspectives in Contemporary America 1980. And I encourage you to attend further events, symposium events, which include journalist Lou Palmer, Monday, September 22nd at 8 p.m. in the Pioneer Room of the Memorial Union, and a film entitled Malcolm X, Wednesday, September 24th at 6:30 p.m. in Cooper Auditorium, room 238.